It is an acquired thing that you learn to go, I'm comfortable with it. Here's the
Right.
thing. I have a couple thoughts on this. First of all, you can get past the mindset when you realize you take yourself out live every day. You don't do two different takes to walk into the grocery store. You just walk in. You face people. Everywhere you go, every engagement is live. So if you see this as that being no different, that can help change the mindset. Same as when we discuss virtual meetings. If you sat in your chair in a virtual meeting and looked at the camera the same way you would if you were in a board table, the same way you would if you were in a virtual live in person, you're going to recreate that as if you're really live. So anytime you can recreate and go, well, this is no different than what I do in my everyday life. If we go live, stuff happens. The trash truck's going to drive by. Yes, we try to create atmospheres that minimize that, but life happens. No different than being out in real life. If you're sitting in a meeting with someone, the trash truck's going to drive by there too. It's okay. And I think that people are more endeared when they see us have mishaps or a glitch or something happens. It happens. And what we're trying to do, the bottom line isn't that I hope that nobody watches any of my interviews and thought, oh, well, that was a perfect, flawless broadcast. I'm so glad her microphone was at the perfect volume and she was perfect. I want them to see, wow, her message was on point. That resonated to me. There's something that I can apply to my life from what I gained today. And if you're not there in an interview to realize that your message is the number one the most important thing, how you deliver that message is the most important, then nothing else matters.
What's going on, guys? It's Yahavy David St. Clair Speaks, and you are now tuned in to the St. Clair Speaks Show.
You are now tuned in to the St. Clair Speaks Show.
Welcome back to the St. Clair Speaks Show podcast. I'm your host, Yahavy St. Clair, sitting down with another incredible guest. Really excited about this. We just chatted right before we started recording here today, and I'm like, man, I didn't even hit the record button yet. This is going to be a really good one. Guys, we are sitting down with Amy Scruggs. She is a TV host, media coach, recording artist, best-selling author, and we're going to dive into so much. Not only the book, I want to dive into the backstory. I want to talk about how she got into media, what does confidence on video look like, and how can you show up through video content and build that confidence by just showing up and recording some content. So this is going to be a good one. You definitely want to listen to this or watch it from start to finish and not skip a second. Amy, I want to welcome you onto the St. Clair Speak Show. Please give our listeners a 3 to 5 minutes introduction on yourself, your brand, your business, and all the amazing work you're doing.
It is so exciting to be here. Isn't this fun?
Super fun.
These kind of opportunities to not only meet each other, but to reach your audience and have content and maybe nuggets of something. I hope our time together today that there's just going to be a few nuggets that somebody says, I can do that too. And so I was really looking forward to being on your platform because I'm just so impressed with your show, the other guests that you have on. So here we are. Yes, I'm Amy. And what I'm going to not do is bore you with the long elevator speech. I can get right to the cliff notes. I am an author. I'm a recording artist. I'm a TV host. I'm a mother of 6. I am a crazy person who hasn't slept in almost 50 years. But I see those are yes things. That's what I do. But who I am is really more encompassed in that. And what that means is it was a lot of years of learning how to shift. What I am as a human that had dreams, that had passions, that had vision as a kid, and like everybody else, watched it get knocked down, stompled on, run over, and we have choices to make. And so for the last 20 years, my career has been built on life happening, stuff happening, and saying, I'm going to make a choice to shift. And that started when I stepped into the business world at 29 years old and was given an opportunity to work in wholesale banking of all things, which math was not my subject in school. I was not qualified for this job. But I met this amazing woman who was a single mother, cancer survivor, that said, I like you and I'm going to take a chance on you. And I think we all have a story that relates to that, where that opened doors. And she opened a door for me to step into a business where I would be all over Southern California, connecting with other professionals, bringing in loans for the bank, representing the bank. And I learned very quickly, number one, I owed her a huge thank you. And this was an opportunity that I wanted to make her proud. So within 6 months, I was number one rep for the company. I was not qualified for that job. And I learned real quick and put in my best. But number two, I learned very fast as well that it was effective communication and connecting with people that was going to set me apart. And this was a time that I was doing this with a flip phone that had an earpiece and a calculator taped to my steering wheel. So this is different technology and resources at that time that I had to go out and hustle. But being able to present in front of other professionals, not being afraid to show up, not being afraid to step into that door and say, I'm Amy, this is what I'm here for. I want to earn your business. I want to earn your trust, to bring credibility and professionalism. Effective communication is what set me apart. Even if I didn't know what I was doing yet, I would go get the answers and communicate that appropriately. So that really laid a groundwork for realizing that communication was going to be a big part of my life. But go backwards, since I was 3, I started playing the piano by ear. I was performing. And music was always the biggest #1 passion in my life. Always performing in cover bands, and even in high school, I was always the choir geek in the ensembles and everything else. So music was a big part. And when I was a kid, I always said I was going to be Barbara Mandrell when I grew up. So here I've got these two veins now that to this day the vessels still combine. Because when the mortgage industry and the recession happened in 2008, guess what happened to my job? Gone. Overnight. That stability that I had counted on to provide for my kids was gone. And I had been told by my A&R rep in Nashville, when I had a chance to go to Nashville and start recordings in 2004, he told me, Amy, the artists that are successful run it as a business. You have to run it as a business. And so I took the skills that I had built in sales in the mortgage industry over these years, took my passion for music and said, how can I combine those two for a success model? And I went out and did the same thing I did when I started in mortgage, and I asked for the business. And 6 months later, I was on a national stage on the 4th of July opening for Clint Black. And I knew that that was going to open those opportunities, and went on to tour over the next several years with kids in tow because it was a recession and I didn't have mortgage to go back to. Toured, asking for the business. I became the spokesperson for the American veterans for the state of California. Again, learning communication, learning how to really make those real relationships and connections. And then had some tragic losses, some things take place. In 2011, we lost our home. My bass player died suddenly while we were still in full shows. Had to make a shift. Do I move on and push through and struggle? Or do I say, okay, maybe it's time to go back and retool again? And those are tough decisions to make, but you have to face it and make it. So I stepped back into the mortgage and real estate world in business development and management. And I knew that if I put the same heart and passion into that as I had into my music career and what I loved, that it would be blessed, that what I needed was going to be waiting for me. And 5 years later, I was given an opportunity to start hosting a national TV show, which put me in front of entrepreneurs and professionals virtually from across the nation, as well as in-person interviews. And wow, was that an amazing lesson. And so I hosted TV, started coaching some of these professionals, saying, okay, right there in the driver's seat, sometimes coaching them to get them comfortable to be on camera for a national TV show. And then 2020 hit. And guess what? The whole world shifted again, right? Had a choice, had to shift. And so I took the experiences that I had working with professionals, being uncomfortable on camera, and put it into the book. And at the same time, Nashville called back after 18 years and said, it's time for you to record again. We have the best producer in town that wants to record you. So I decided to take that time and say, wow, maybe this is it. And recorded my dream project in Nashville in 2021. And now it's out on radio worldwide and charting at the same time that I'm coaching amazing professionals with the book and media coaching, and now on podcasts and great platforms like yours, so that we can have this conversation about using these digital tools, leveling up and getting comfortable with it, and shifting into new realities of growing your business, your personal brand, just yourself as an individual. And here we are today.
What makes me really excited to talk to you, I noticed the second we got on this call, right? The second we were both on screen, when I heard your voice, I'm like, it's going to be one of those interviews. You have such a commanding voice, and I hear the confidence in telling your story as you share your story. Yeah, I'm over 100 interviews in, and I've interviewed a lot of people, and there's no confidence in the story. So I want to ask you this. How did you find confidence in your story to tell it so well?
You have to be willing, number one, and this is something I teach to all my clients. You have to play it back and listen to yourself. If you don't take self-evaluation, I could play you all my flops too. was learning and expanding and growing over the years. I watched my first TV interview for the show opening for Clint Black in 2008. Oh, good Lord. I'm like, where was your coach, Amy? So we have to learn to grow and evolve. But most people will not take the time. I would love to ask every one of your former guests, how many of them went back in and watched and listened to their interview and did an actual self-evaluation of how, okay, step out of myself. How would this be received? How would this be received to most audience? Did I stay on point? Was I compelling? Did I show credibility? Did I show vulnerability? All of those things you have to go back and evaluate. And that's what I fine tuning my craft. And like you said, doing hundreds of interviews and hearing other professionals and seeing where, the saddest thing for me is to see a professional miss a beautiful opportunity because of that lack of confidence. Opportunities missed because not taking that next step to level up. We do it for everything else. I bet some of those interviews also are really great at their workout routine, and they have the mirror in front of them and they're lifting weights and they make sure that they're tracking every calorie or things like that. But why don't we do that same thing for how we present ourselves in our business and in our story and our branding?
Yeah, that's a very good point. That is an analogy that you could also apply to sports, right? You know, someone loses a game, lose or win, you're studying film. So it's kind of like the same thing of you have to get through the cringy-ness of it at first. I'm definitely
Yes, we all do.
Podcast for sure. It's definitely uncomfortable, but it's very rewarding when you sit there and you study yourself and you examine yourself and you find ways to get better. So I want to swing back to performing, right? You know, finding your passion in music. What are some similarities, you know, if you're in front of the camera, whether it's TV media versus you performing in front of an audience, what are some similarities there and how you command that stage and that audience presence? Because you just do it from jump. So I want to know how do you do it so well?
Well, there's the first part that practice and preparation of knowing what I'm doing, right? But then I'm also so the more practice I can do knowing what I'm doing, the more I can open up and be aware to what's going on around me. Because when I'm on stage and doing a live show and my guitar player breaks a string, and now I've got to make sure and shift or adapt, or sound goes out, or a light comes out, or something gets tripped up, or somebody catches my eye in the audience or trying to get my attention while I'm performing, it would be really easy to forget the lyrics, forget where I'm at, or turn it to a disaster. So being aware and saying, I'm so polished and ready with what I'm doing that if something throws me off, I'm on autopilot. And so on stage, and those things all happen. Lights went out, guitar strings broke. I have fallen on stage. I mean, things happen. It happens. So the more I was prepared, that I knew I could come right, get up and go back in, or I could have one of the guys covering for the other guy that's now off the stage fixing a guitar and then comes right back in before the last chorus of the song. Everybody's prepared to make adjustments for scenarios. And I think that that's something that the performing really taught me. You're on. Also, when I was on the big stages and the major openings, you have, let's say, a 30-minute opening time slot, like when I did for Trace Adkins. We practiced to a stopwatch because you cannot go a minute over or you're out of contract. So similar to how you're presenting or storytelling or being in front of the camera, if you practice, okay, I know if I tell this story, it's going to be about 45 seconds or it's going to be about a minute and a half. And the more you start doing it and you get comfortable and confident, the easier it's going to be. And shift. So our wonderful host is going to be coming back in. And this is that time that you can go, okay, what would I do if I was in this situation? Is it going to throw me off? Are we going to be able to go right back on point? Because we have to be able to shake it off. And anytime something like this happens, you've got to be able to shake it off. And he's going to come back in. He's going to join us and we're going to finish this great conversation. But I can tell you this has happened more times than not. And it's really a privilege for me to have this opportunity.
Something I want to ask you, and of course this ties to media, and this is something that I've learned, especially the last 2 years. Just the importance of just showing up, right? Showing up is definitely half the battle. And,
everything.
Integrating, the whole podcasting and doing interviews like this. Can you talk to the importance of, appearing on podcast shows, doing these interviews and integrating media into your marketing and why coaches and consultants should maybe lean into that a little bit more?
Oh, I would love to, because I was going to go there anyways. So thank you. Here's the thing. I look back and this is my example, when I was touring, 4 kids in tow, out on the road, town to town, doing radio interviews in the morning, shows at night, TV or radio interviews in the morning, shows at night, the life of a touring artist. That's hard work. I wish I had had these tools then. I wish there was StreamYard. I wish that YouTube was not just for videos of funny dogs. Facebook wasn't just to find my high school friends. But I was still in MySpace when I started touring. So that lets you know the difference in technology and what it was. Again, on a flip phone. I can't even imagine these tools. So it's tragic if anybody that is in a business, an industry that is trying to get their face and their voice out there. If you're behind the scenes worker and you're a good support model, that's different. But if you are someone that is saying, I've got this that needs to get out there and seen in a big way, and you're not taking advantage of these incredible tools, then it is tragic because they are here at our fingertips. And this is amazing. Look at you and I get to meet today and have this incredible time because we're taking advantage of it. And I want to go back to a point you made about athletes. It is so important. It's interesting. The book that I put together isn't just me as a giant windbag writing a bunch of stuff. I actually put together stories from clients that I've worked with, professionals I've worked with, but also pretty high-end professionals in other industries that contributed. And one of them was Coach John Robinson. He was the championship coach for USC, the LA Rams, took the Louisiana to championship in 2019 just recently, as he's the head coach advisor now. And I interviewed Coach and said, why is it important that you watch the tape? And he said, Amy, he said, champions are made from the tape. They're not allowed on the field until they watch the tape. We teach the game through the tape. We teach the plays through the tape. That's how we create champions. And I loved that he said that because that is absolutely the truth. So you fast forward now, you're becoming a champion, you're watching the tape, you're learning your craft, and then you're not taking advantage of being on podcasts, radio, TV. I mean, even local media is looking for stories. They don't want to just cover the same things all the time. If you're out doing community outreach, let's say you're an owner of a nonprofit, that resource should be so sick of you. Your local news should be like, I don't want to hear from them again. They're doing too much out there in the world. We want to take advantage of these media tools. And as I mentioned, I've released a new music project. So here I am as an artist, not touring this time. Not yet. Maybe it's up ahead. But right now, not touring. And I have taken the music globally. I have charted globally. And in the last 7 weeks, as an independent female artist, I am 7 weeks on the Music Row charts and broken barriers because I'm taking the time to do interviews, to thank the radio stations, to be on their platforms, sharing their content and engaging. It has been a game changer for the visibility and what I've been able to do.
All conversations are marketing. I want to talk to you about your book, Lights, Camera, Action. What was the inspiration behind writing the book, and what is the message for the readers?
Well, inspiration was forced because the world shut down and my ADD was not going to tolerate that. Or there was going to be like circles pacing in the floor. After I finished going through all of my fun celebrity impersonation posts, then I decided it was time to take what I had learned and not in a sappy, weird way. Again, it's just very cohesive ABC step. Here's my top tricks that I help professionals with. And so I reached out to some of my favorite past guests. I reached out to some of my favorite clients that I'd worked with over the past few years and said, let's put this on paper. Help me. Can do you mind if I tell your story? Reaching out, like I said, to Coach John Robinson. I have Julianne Ford in there. Julianne is the daughter-in-law of President Ford. And she contributed a great part to the chapter on why it's important to have a good first impression. She married into a presidential family. She had to learn that real quick. And she shared her insights on that. So for me, it was definitely COVID because I don't think I would have slowed down enough to put the book together had the world not strapped me to a chair. And so I did. Now's the time. And what if? I loved it. I was like, well, what if it reaches a bigger audience? What if this is a great resource? And I started to see our Zoom world unfold. And it was really tragic for me to see some of the disasters taking place at wonderful, everyday, beautiful humans and individuals that turned the camera on and they're on a Zoom meeting. And I'm like, oh, please don't do that. Nope, don't want to see the ceiling. Nope, please, we got to learn how to do this. And I started running workshops just to help professionals learn how to frame themselves and their lighting and how to carry themselves in these virtual meetings. So it really created opportunity because of what I was already doing. It was an incredible opportunity that I was a fool if I did not put myself out there in a bigger way to not only grow my business, but help other individuals. And then that's how it came together.
This is probably a very good question. Then I'll go to the question I wanted to ask.
one of the reasons why I avoided doing like live streams is because of tech. Sometimes it could go left real quick. And there's some people that get so caught up in, oh, this cut off, or your mic cut off, or this happened, or the car drove past. And
Yeah, who cares?
but that's how I am now. I'm like, yeah, who cares? But there's also people that have that fear. So I want to talk to you, like, how do you overcome the fear of quote unquote live streaming and live recording? Because a lot of professionals don't live stream via LinkedIn, mainly because of the fear of tech issues going wrong.
It is an acquired thing that you learn to go, I'm comfortable with it. Here's the thing. I have a couple thoughts on this. First of all, you can get past the mindset when you realize you take yourself out live every day. You don't do 2 different takes to walk into the grocery store. You just walk in. You face people. Everywhere you go, every engagement is live. So if you see this as that being no different, that can help change the mindset. Same as when we discuss virtual meetings. If you sat in your chair in a virtual meeting and looked at the camera the same way you would if you were in a board table, the same way you would if you were in a virtual live in person, you're going to recreate that as if you're really live. So you're going to recreate that. So anytime you can recreate and go, well, this is no different than what I do in my everyday life. If we go live, stuff happens. The trash truck's going to drive by. Yes, we try to create atmospheres that minimize that, but life happens. No different than being out in real life. If you're sitting in a meeting with someone, the trash truck's going to drive by there too. It's okay. And I think that people are more endeared when they see us have mishaps or a glitch or something happens. It happens. And what we're trying to do, the bottom line isn't that I hope that nobody watches any of my interviews and thought, oh, well, that was a perfect, flawless broadcast. I'm so glad her microphone was at the perfect volume and she was perfect. I want them to see, wow, her message was on point. That resonated to me. There's something that I can apply to my life from what I gained today. And if you're not there in an interview to realize that your message is the number one most important thing, how you deliver that message is the most important, then nothing else matters. It's the why. Why are you doing this? And if not, then step out and step aside. My other thought on that, if you are the person that you're just trying to record your own content on your cell phone and you are the one that 15 takes later, now you're crying and you're more frustrated and you're ball in the corner, it's going to keep getting worse. That's just the way it is. Your energy will continue to drop. So on the 4th, 5th, and 6th take, you're like, forget it. Here's what I advise. Take 2 and toss 1. Anytime I'm going to do a quick video or a shout out on social media or something like that, I take 2. I have to pick one. I snip the ends off so that you don't see the finger going like this into the camera, clean it up, and then I post it. And sometimes that confidence will start to come in where somebody starts doing that and they get more comfortable with it. Then they're fine to go live the next time. But you have to practice. Like anything else, you have to practice. But take 2 and toss 1, and you're not going to tailspin on the 5th take, because then you're just not doing yourself any good.
I love that. I really love that. All right. So I want to ask you, how do you, I kind of want to swing back to that point, but there is something else that you mentioned before all these tech issues. How are you finding balance doing what you're doing now? And you said you're a mother of 6?
Yes.
So you're a mompreneur. Yeah. How do you find that balance?
Well, there's 2 things to that too. They're all grown now. The youngest one just graduated high school. So I have the bandwidth now to really focus the most on the career, because I'm not having to go pick somebody up or do anything like that. But on the flip side, adult children are harder than young children. So I'm not quite sure yet if the mental space is better. I will keep you updated on that, but they are grown and I am proud of that. And it is helping my young adults as they start adulting from the ages of 31 down to 17. And I love every minute of it. And my oldest son, who's now 31, was my lead guitar player and has led the band and performed with me since he was 17. So my business and what I do has always been a family affair. They've always been included in a part of what I'm doing, and we create life lessons for that. I had my youngest daughter on a podcast last week as it spoke about college apps and getting ready for young adulting. And so I pull them into my world so that we feel like we're all a part of it. And it's not just, oh, mom's behind a door with it closed. I'm very inclusive, because through that, they're meeting other great professionals that they need for their resources in their life. And it's more of a community feeling.
That is That's pretty interesting. That's actually nice. That's so it's like they're not like you're throwing them in front of wolves, but you're showing them like, hey, like the interview experience through podcasting. I think that's really I like that. It's pretty cool. I want
Because
to
that'll help them.
I want to ask you this, and I guess this kind of like it ties to what you do now, but media coach. Who who is your services for? Is this for coaches, consultants? Is this for everyone? Who needs a media coach? And at what point?
Everyone.
And at what point do they reach out to you, Amy?
It's everyone does. I think what great coaches need coaches. I have great coaches, right? So I am a firm believer in constantly retooling and getting coaching. But really, for that front line, I would say professional that says I'm doing a lot more podcasting, or I'm wanting to do a lot more video content. Maybe they're in charge of an organization that they're trying to draw visibility to. So I definitely speak to organizations. The private clients that I have right now is everything from nonprofit to wealth advisor to musician and real estate agent, and then a company that does fencing and signs and things like that. So anyone that's needing to put that visibility and communicate more effectively. Because I can go either direction of saying I'm going to help you, be more in front of the media as far as entertainment or podcasting or interviewing or promoting your branding. But maybe you're leading a team and your message just isn't clear. Because a lot of times it can come down to the communication and how you're presenting yourself. If you're leading a team in whatever you're doing and there's an impasse, let's take a look at the communication. Let's see what that is.
Okay, so you brought up a point. When you mentioned communicating efficiently. Early, if everyone's listening to this, I when you first did your introduction, I'm like, you have a really commanding voice and confidence in your story. How does that all tie together? Because now I'm looking at the commanding voice, the confidence in your story, and communicating efficiently. What are bulletin points to that? Is it knowing who you are first, knowing your story, making sure you hit, boom, deliver?
Yes.
How does that work?
So definitely start with every interview. So let's say anybody that you talk to, I'm sure it's the same format, really. If I'm doing a 5-minute interview, a 10-minute, a 30, an hour, it doesn't matter. We want to know who I am and how I got here, what I'm doing now, and what's my call to action. It always goes to, well, what's next? And where are you going? What's the call to action? I mean, there's those 3 basic components. So even if you've never been on an interview before and you're listening to this podcast going, no way could I do it. If you were prepared to answer how you got here, what you doing now? Because if you're promoting anything, if you're running a business, you're doing something now that you want to talk about. And what direction do you want it to go? That way there's the ask. Maybe somebody can help you grow your business. Maybe there's a resource there that you weren't aware of. So breaking it down into those 3 components and then saying, okay, what are the key points in those components? Because the worst thing that anybody wants to hear is a rambler. Somebody that rambles on and doesn't get to the point and you're only on point 1, that's a problem. So you really want to look and see, how long did it take me to get to that? Now, how long does it really take me to get to that? How long is this interview? The first thing I look at is the length. What's the length of that interview going to be? Because then I know if I'm giving you my short version, my medium version, my longer version. Is it conversational? What are the different dynamics of that? It's important to prepare for anything. You wouldn't go into a job interview not prepared. So every interview has to be prepared. That being said, when you go talk about now the inflection, the voice, the command, yes, that does take practice. And it goes back to watching the tape, recording yourself, even if you're not ready for an interview yet. Record yourself. What does it sound like? Is your voice up in your head? Are you mousy like this? I had a client that I was working with that had a very song-like, what I'm going to do today is, and then I was going to come here to that, and everything went up and then dropped down. And some people have different patterns in their speech. What happens is you're going to lose your audience, and it is time to change it. Just like anything else, you want to make change. We got to put growth in there. So where is your voice? Where is it setting? What accents are you wanting to make? And the more you know your message, the more you can really hone in on presenting those key takeaway points with a little bit more authority.
All good. All really good points. When you mentioned the rambling, for example, again, in my early podcast days, I used to listen to myself in a playback, and I'm like, man, this is just bad. I used to ramble with unnecessary stuff, then go into a question, but then there's also the active listening component, right? Yes. So the film thing is the hidden gem in all of this, because I'm not confident in podcast interviews without me studying and going back and looking at content. sitting there and finding ways to get better at my craft. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't want to listen to anyone for 45 minutes if they're just rambling, they're boring. I don't
Oh,
feel
right.
pulled in. If you don't pull me in the first 5 minutes, I'm scrolling towards the next one. That's it. That's just me.
That's it.
But it's very key, and you kind of like talk about, you kind of know what the podcast theme is going to be. You know, you have your intro, and that's kind of like how I set up my podcast, for example.
Yes.
Right? It's always the same in the beginning. Intro, tell us about yourself. Then we just dive in it from there. I have a couple questions that I usually go with. Then there are some that really come during the conversation. And there are, and I must say this, there have been some interviews that I've done in the past, Amy, that felt more so like conversations versus interviews. And those are my favorite, because you can't tell, you can't tell. I just interviewed someone yesterday, a couple days ago. He said, strangers are friends you haven't met yet. And like, I'm just like,
I love that.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
And when I hear you speak, it's like, man, I can listen to her all day. I feel like I know you already.
And my family can say otherwise.
But that's the real exciting thing for me, is because when I listen to some people speak, it's like, I want more. And that's what kind of like sparked this passion for me with helping people, tell their stories, the podcast.
Yes.
I have quite the story, but I also want to hear other stories. So when I hear your story, it's like, man, I'm pulled in. I want more. And then I, start to become a super fan. And for me, that's how I get more out of podcasting, right?
Right.
You never know the power of your story until you tell it. And there's no wrong way of telling your story unless you tell it. So go out there, tell your story. So I want to talk to you about teachable moments. It's one of my favorite questions. What have been some teachable moments in this journey for you, Amy? Because again, you have quite the background with music. You're an author, media coach. What have been some teachable moments for you within the last 5 years, you would say?
Pain is always a teachable moment. I think pain is the best teacher, right? The minute it hurts, when it's painful, that's a motivator. You have two choices when life hits, right? You can look at it and go, I'm going to stay stuck in this, and I'm going to wallow, and I'm going to be in a pit. Or I'm going to say, what a beautiful opportunity for me to know what not to do, figure out how to get out of it, and then use that to inspire others up ahead. And so the biggest motivator for me is always, I love stuck. I think stuck is a great thing. Stuck creates change and creates shift, because I never want to be too comfortable. And I don't mind getting stuck, because then I go, okay, it's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You're stuck. You can't find that last piece. And then, you find it and you go, it was right there the whole time. That's how I feel about navigating through the different career journeys, or even when COVID hit, we were down. I'm like, this isn't stuck. This is opportunity. Okay. And sometimes opportunity doesn't always mean it's opportunity we're supposed to take, but it's opportunity for discernment. Sometimes these moments are just to teach us discernment. Is this in line with where I'm going, with what my purpose is, with my target audience, with my target goals, my business plan, my personal morals, everything? It sometimes creates a lot of opportunity for discernment. And the more you go looking for those, the more they come to you. And then the more the network of the right people meeting you today, that boom, right here. I didn't have to search hard. I loved it. We were connected. And here we are. And I have the beautiful opportunity of hopefully making an impact on your listeners as well. But I think that the pain is such a big factor when life hits. And at the end of the day, what lessons am I learning, and what lessons am I teaching? Because as I mentioned, I got a lot of kids, and they're watching me as an example. And so are their friends. It's not just my kids, it's their entire circle and network as well. I have a whole gaggle of young adults that watch me. And if they see me crumble, or they see me have bad behavior, or wallow, or whine, or complain, then what am I teaching them? Because this world is not getting easier, it's getting harder. And it's our jobs to start equipping those coming up behind us with better tools, and the ones that we weren't given, because we have a lot more tools to work with now than we did when we started out. It's time for us to pass that on.
Whew, that's a very powerful point. Man, pain. You can learn a lot from pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never let pain go to waste. I want to talk to you because you're on a point of it with leadership in particular. My biggest takeaway from that. Earlier in this podcast, you mentioned someone that was a very key influence for you earlier on in your career. How are you how are you paying that forward with the young adults that's watching you and studying and those watching what you're doing? How do you pay that forward?
I absolutely love creating opportunity for young adults. Anybody, if you're in my life, you're immersed in my life. I will drop anything. There have been young adults that have lived with me over the years. If someone's in need, here, I got a bed. Let's help you. Let's get you on your feet. Let's get you tools. You need an introduction. I've written resumes for young adults. I have been that call in the middle of the night when they need it. I have made myself available and trustworthy, that they know that they're safe with me regardless of what's going on, that you're not going to get judgment. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to be tough. I will give tough advice sometimes or real feedback, but I'm safe. And so creating a safe space, because it is hard for them to navigate, and to say, here, I don't want you to see me as an old person. And I can make fun of myself. I love making fun of myself with them. I'm aware of my age. And, we agree with that disconnect, and I'll go, okay, you're right. This was a generational thing. I was thinking it this way. How do you guys see it? What's going on in your world? Explain that to me. Okay, now I can see these two. All right, well, in that situation, you're right to handle it this way, but here's a tool that I would bring in to maybe assist you in making it better. So really, again, that active listening, even with your young adults, because they have faced a lot these last few years, and they've got a lot to say, and they've got a lot of things to move through. And we've given them a lot of some uncertainty right now. So we need to pour back into their lives.
I love the fact that we're on this point right now, especially with young adults. There is so much story in young adults.
Yes.
And young adults are so innovative. We just live in, I just like the times that we live in. I'm a little jealous. If I was a lot younger, if I was like maybe 14, 15, there's so much opportunity at their fingertips that they could take advantage of. I don't know how long YouTube's been around, but it wasn't around 30, 40 years ago, right? You StreamYard and recording on platforms like this wasn't around 30, 40 years ago. So just the opportunities everywhere. And it's very easy to get caught in that shiny object syndrome. You try to catch two rabbits, you end up catching none. So it's kind of like key to hawk down, find your passion. That's the key word. Find your passion, what you're passionate about. And sometimes that changes. And it's also okay. It's also okay to lean into other things. And as I'm listening to your story, I'm like, man, Amy, you're a recording artist. You're a best-selling author. You're a media coach. You're so much, and you don't box yourself in. Can you talk about that? Because there are some people that they feel like they have no identity because they're getting pulled and tussled here, and they think they have to be pinned down and married to one particular thing for the rest of their life.
Right.
How do you do that so well? Because and at the same time, I'd probably add this: how do you do that so well without tripping and confusing your audience?
Sorry, I even stumbled there. I don't see it as multiple things. I see it as all one. And that's the difference. Of course, my ability to be on stage and be a performer, of course, that's going to help me be more comfortable on camera and interviewing and hosting. Well, of course, then don't I want to help other professionals to be able to do that? I want to help you. It doesn't mean you have to sing, but I'm going to help you shine your talents, whatever those are. So I see them feeding each other in a way that it's the same thing. And it is really fun. And also, I don't give up on the 3-year-old that always says, gosh, what if I could do that? And when an opportunity presented itself to record again, I didn't say, well, no, I can't put out a new music project because I'm just a TV host and a media coach now, and that's all I do. I'm like, why not? Because I wasn't attached to outcome. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm not attached to outcome. I didn't record that project going, oh my God, this music has to be a hit or else my life is over and I can't help it. I'm like, well, I'm just really excited to go back and fulfill a lifelong dream, record songs that I'm so proud to record, have this beautiful opportunity to meet new musicians and have new opportunities and put new music out into the world. If one person hears it and they're blessed, that's awesome. If 1 million end up hearing it, okay, that's kind of cool. Why don't I just put it out there and let it evolve and see what it's supposed to be? Because maybe it's supposed to help with these other things that I do. And that's what's happened. Each one of those things has created credibility and visibility. So what I don't do is put an agenda on it, but I allow it to unfold. And that has been a really fun process. And then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, this song's on the charts. Huh? What do you know? All right. Well, it's supposed to keep doing that. That next indicated thing keeps presenting itself in front of me. And at the end of the day, I have these projects that I am proud to pass down. That my kids are going to be like, there was mom. She did that and this and that. And I didn't put age restrictions, especially as a woman. I remember in Nashville when I was 30 being told I was already too old. Ha, how do you like me now? I'm turning 50 this year and I'm finally on the charts. And I like to break those barriers because, again, what is that doing? That's coming back to my core mission of helping others. Maybe another young woman is inspired to not give up at 30, to not think their life is over and their career is over at 40. And it allows me to, again, have credibility and real tangible takeaways to say, I am young enough to still, I'm old enough to be taken seriously and young enough to still take action. And that's a message that I love sharing. And so the music doing well brings more opportunity for me to share the message better. Also, continually keeping me in my own craft that now I need to be promoting. I need to be interviewing. Well, what does that do? It helps me be a better interviewer and it allows me to be a better coach. It all rolls into each other.
Man, that is, Amy, you touched on something that is so true. Like that is probably like the biggest roadblock, a music artist would hear in the music industry. Oh, you're too old to be a music artist. Oh no, we're going in this direction now. And I like, what was it? Can you say it again? I'm
old enough to be taken seriously and young enough to still take action. Don't tell me no. I'm not afraid of no.
That's the soundbite we're going to go with to promote this episode, by the way. That's the soundbite. Man, that is because it's so true because it's easy to get caught into, oh, I'm 40, I'm 30, I should be here now. Then you're just soaking and killing yourself with resentment and guilt about the risk you could have took 20 years ago, but you didn't. And you spent the next 20 years just sitting there soaking versus taking action. There are so many people that struggle with that.
Yes, it's true. Oh. And then and again, it goes back to the sadness of seeing wonderful people missing opportunities. Are you missing opportunities because you're stuck in that? Let's take a look at that. Don't miss opportunities. And then it goes back to the self-awareness. Are you aware of who you are, what your passions are, what message, what you're providing to the world, what your business is, what you're promoting, whatever it is? If you put that much time and effort into building it, why are you going to quit? There is no quitting. Who says we have to be done at a certain age? There's just no quitting. It's not an option.
Yeah. Hell yeah, Amy. Yeah. It's not an option. Quitting is not an option. You know what really excites me is because I've been working out. I've been working out since I was 14. Recently turned 31 a couple weeks back, and I'm like, man, there's no age factor on doing things when it comes to taking care of yourself, right? Working out and training. There's no age limit. So boxing ourselves in, it's like, you kind of give yourself a death sentence in a way.
Totally.
Okay. Oh yeah, no, you're 40. You can't run a marathon. You can't, do a bike race, do a Spartan race, do things like that. I just think age is just an illusion and a distraction for purpose. So yeah.
My oldest son just turned 31. So now, okay, yes, I'm old enough to be your mother, but he at 30 was even saying, Mom, I'm 30. What have I done? And I went, oh my God, at 30, I was just getting started. Please. I was just getting that first job in wholesale mortgage when I was your age. Look where I am now, 20 years later. I mean, no way. You're just getting started. You have to earn those years. You have to put in the time. Have to. Read every great story, pick up a few biographies. It wasn't over at chapter 1. And all of us are in the middle of our story. Well, what do I want those middle chapters to look like? Because that's what I'm choosing right now.
You could probably, I'm an empath, so you could probably see how I'm feeling right now just listening to your story. I'm like, man, I knew this was going to be good. I already knew, but I didn't know it was going to be that good, Amy. Like, I am just like, for me right now, I'm in awe because there's so many relatable points that you mentioned, especially with the age. And I don't know the demographic of my listeners with this podcast. It does vary, but I know for sure most of my listeners are from the age bracket of 35 to 45. I looked at the report and I'm like, man, there are a lot of people that tune in and they're much older than me. And for someone listening to this right now, don't let age block your blessings.
No.
So
I like that.
So rewarding.
Don't let age block your blessings. Those were hard years. 35 to 45. This is some hard work. I took some big losses. We went through some major hardships and challenges, but wow, did those mold me and create opportunity to be having this conversation with you today. Imagine if I had chosen differently on my perspective on those hardships and that pain, the conversation we'd be having versus, okay, well, guess what? Oh my gosh, I have music out there. And here's the fun part. All those years of saying, but what if it works? What if it works, right? Do you know what my single is on the charts right now? It's called What If It All Goes Right. You talk about a song that was handpicked for me and my story that was waiting out there all these years so that I could have my turn. I didn't even, it was like, it was just a gift. There's no worry and stress involved with a song called What If It All Goes Right? You just let it go. Let's see where the world takes it.
Man, that's incredible stuff. Let's see where the world takes it. All right. So closing thoughts, Amy, what would you say is the takeaway message you want the listeners and the viewers to take away from, just hearing your story and sitting in today?
Number one, start building that self-awareness. Know your message. Know your story. Start practicing how to tell it. Get comfortable with it. Because imagine you could be a difference maker. You could help somebody else's life. You can grow your own business. You can fulfill those dreams. Take those blockers off. And it definitely starts with how you communicate, how you're comfortable in front of the camera, and how you get yourself out there.
That's good points. Where can we, number one, where can we get a copy of your book? Because I need a copy. I need a signed copy of your book.
I will send you that.
Yes.
And I believe you're going to laugh when I say I have CDs, because you still have to do CDs, even though nobody has CDs, but everything is available online. So Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere books are sold, you can find Lights, Camera, Action. You can go to amyscruggsmedia.com. Just Google Amy Scruggs. You'll find my websites. That leads you to the music page. The music leads you to the media page. So they run alongside each other, but it's all one platform. So just Google Amy Scruggs and you can find that. And I'd be happy. Reach out to me on social media if you have any issues. I'd love to send that out. If you reach out to me, it's not a problem. I can make sure that gets out to you. But the book is anywhere books are sold and online, and the music is on all streaming platforms, and the videos are on YouTube as well. Amy,
this was so much fun. You have no idea the impact your story has had on me today. With just so much, there's just so much hidden gems. But again, it's just so relatable. And I'm pretty sure there's someone right now that's probably listening to this that could agree that your story has really planted the right seed with someone today. It could be me, it could be someone else, or it could just be everyone that tuned in. But like I always say, for everyone that's listening and watching, what good is information if you don't apply it? Apply what you've learned today. Take action. With that being said, I will catch you in the next episode. Amy, always a pleasure. It was an honor to be with you today. This was really fun. I really enjoyed it.